getting you up and getting your sports day started. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3.
And Double T 97.3.com with Jamie Lent and Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Heinz. Nice to have you with us this morning. Take your thoughts and comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Go to the Double T 97.3 mobile app for that. It's presented by Happy State Bank. He did say, with regard to Tyler Shuck, that he's in good shape. He's rehabbing Oklahoma State or after the bye week is what he thought with regard to at least maybe getting back out on the practice field. So you've got K-State next week, then at Oklahoma State, then West Virginia. The one thing that Coach McGuire said that I thought was really interesting, at least it was interesting to me, was that Zach Kittley has a play with all three quarterbacks.
Has a
play that involves all three quarterbacks on the field at the same time.
Okay.
I think Coach McGuire would like to see that because he brought it up. Because he said, after he said whoever puts us in the best position to win will be the starting quarterback, and he said Kittley has to play with all three quarterbacks. So I thought that was a nice tease.
Yeah, no, it's fun to think about stuff like that or whatever. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm in that mode now where it's like, okay, this weekend was pretty ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Your offense has been pretty bad 2 weeks in a row, right?
Yeah.
And so let's figure out how to block and have receivers finish routes and compete for balls and have quarterbacks read defenses and throw good balls, and we'll tap the brakes on being excited about
a gimmick play.
Well, super gimmicky, tricky plays.
He wasn't over the top giddy about it, but
I will say this,
what, Chuck, and that's fair. That's 100% fair. But it's like, we've been there before, where it's like, we hear all these things and so much talk, and it's just like, man, just win. And when your offense performs that poorly back-to-back weeks, I'm like in the mode of like, how are we going to get this fixed?
In fairness of having all three quarterbacks on the same, Smith may have put the best blocks of anybody we've seen for the offensive line in the game on Saturday.
He did pretty well.
So if he's blocking for this play, I could be interested to see what this looks like.
And I'm not giving up on our offense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. It's a young offense, and it's a new coordinator and a new system and all that stuff. I'm not giving up on this offense. I think they have the potential to get better. I'm anxious to see them move in that direction.
One last thing on the quarterbacks is it does sound like, I don't think it's 50-50, but Donovan Smith and Baron Morton are splitting reps in practice. He did say that.
Okay.
So,
these are all things that are just way more important than, Tyler Shuck's metal plate. Okay?
Yeah.
And we've kind of been burying the lead here.
Well, I'm not trying to bury the lead. I'm just kind of going through the timeline of kind of what I thought was interesting, but clearly I'm wrong. But I thought that was interesting. He did say as long as everything kind of goes according to kind of the way it is going, that Donovan Smith would be the starting quarterback.
Yeah. Okay. So, but they're clearly questioning it a little bit.
That was kind of my mind because I asked the quick question at the end of like, so regardless of how practice goes, Donovan's going to trot out there, and he said yes, sir. Zach Kittley did.
Okay. And so I think I would be surprised if he didn't, but clearly the coaching staff is
just kind of got the impression
they're debating at this point.
When he brought up the splitting reps, because before when Shuck was the starting quarterback, and they made the comment of, hey, the starting quarterback goes with the ones all the time, okay? And the
interesting part about that is if you're 100% behind Donovan getting better and improving, what are you doing? You want to give him every rep.
That's what stood out. What stood out to me.
So right now discussion. you're not certain, the coaching staff's not certain that he's the guy.
Yeah, they may say that's reading too much into it, but I think your point is valid. I think your point, especially when they talked about splitting reps and that, as of now, regardless of how practice goes, Donovan, because they talked about earlier, it's like, well, when he comes back, whoever puts us in the best position to win. Okay, now we're splitting reps. Okay, so now is Donovan Smith the starting quarterback? Yes. Okay. Question answered. Expect to see number 7 on the offense running out there.
Yeah.
Number 7 on the defense will not.
Mm-hmm. That's disappointing. We could use him.
Let's see. This is a fair question. Someone put a muzzle on the clown in the booth. There isn't one swinging soul that gets up this early to listen to all this screaming. So I don't know which clown, the smiling clown, the frowning clown, or
it's definitely me.
Silent. No, I don't.
No, it's definitely me.
No.
Without hesitation.
PJ asked this question with regard to one last thing on Shuck. How did we not know that he had a procedure? Well, they didn't announce that. Coach McGuire was asked that question, and he answered it honestly. And with some detail as well. But it's not like they had any, I don't know if they had an obligation to announce that he had a surgical procedure. I mean, I thought
I heard in a broadcast somewhere that he had a surgery on this one. And maybe it was the coach's show.
I missed it because I was at the coach's show. That was the first that I'd heard about him having a surgical procedure. So anyway,
if it changes the timeline, if it changes when he's coming back, okay, I'm interested. Whether he's just rehabbing it or whether he's having a surgical procedure, I'm sorry, it's not that.
Okay.
That's not news to me. What's news to me is like, well, he's having a surgical procedure and he's going to be out 4 more weeks. Then it's news.
Yeah.
Okay, but if he's having a surgical procedure and he's going to be back the same time as if he would have just had no procedure.
I don't know if
why does it matter?
I don't know if the procedure changed the timeline of when he's coming back or not. But I mean, it just seemed like that was interesting to me.
Okay, that's fine.
That was interesting to me.
That's fine, but way more important is, Baron Morton's getting half the reps. That's way more important.
And I don't know if it's half, but I mean.
Well, you said he was splitting.
He said splitting. I mean, so I don't know if that means 60-40, 50-50, 65-45, whatever. Or 60, that would be 65-35. I don't know. But I mean, splitting reps, right? He said splitting reps. So again, I don't know if that means 50-50 or what.
Well, he's splitting reps with the first team. Is that what you're saying?
That sounds
with
like
the first team.
Yeah, it sounds like that.
Okay.
That's what it sounded. I mean, that's what it sounded like to me. So anyway, I thought that was, like I said, thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Donovan wasn't out there, but I at the same time, at a certain point, I think the leash is much, much shorter this week.
He said he hoped to see both quarterbacks. He said that Donnie got banged up a bit, and it seemed like a good time to get Baron Morton in there is when they put him in the ball game on Saturday. He got banged up a bit. Okay, so I don't know what banged up means.
Do you agree with that statement? Did it seem like a good time to you?
Seemed a little late.
Yeah, I think if you're
going to make that move, you make it earlier.
If you're trying to now, if he's banged up and you just want to get him out of there and you feel like that the game is lost, whatnot. Okay, I get it. If you're trying to make a difference in the game, if you're trying to spark the team, that seems a little late.
Yeah, and I'd be disappointed to say that he thought the game was lost. I mean, you were down 2 possessions. Yeah. I mean, go down and score a touchdown and get an onside kick.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you're saying you think the game is lost.
No, I'm just right. Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't feel like a great time for me, personally, to get him in the game. If you could have gone a series or 2 earlier because you felt like Donovan's just doesn't have it today, or not at all. You keep Donovan in there. But again, if that's true, that he was banged up and he didn't think Donovan could go out there, that's a different story. That changes the story.
Yeah. Okay, I got more. I got more actual stuff that I think you'd be real interested in, including the the kick return stuff. I think that was interesting, and his also thoughts on Reggie Pearson and that one play that we were talking about yesterday.
Big plays and even bigger laughs. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3.
20th day of September, 2022. Time for this day in sports history. 6:45. Here's Jeff McGuire.
All right, let's get started in 1902 because Chicago White Sox pitcher Jimmy Nixie Calhoun no-hits the Detroit Tigers 3-0.
Nixie.
1907, Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher Nick Maddox no-hits the Brooklyn Superboss 2-1 at Exposition Park in Pittsburgh. 1908, Chicago White Sox pitcher Frank Smith's second no-hitter beats Philadelphia 1-0.
Sounds like a lot of guys are ready to go home for the winter.
It's not, a little bit, especially early on in the history of the world of baseball. 1931, Lou Gehrig gets 4 RBIs, breaks his old RBI mark of 175, en route to 184 for the season.
Wow.
That's a big number.
That's a huge number.
And this is back when it was before 162
right,
games.
there's 156 or 6-year games, right?
I don't know what Gehrig was playing a year then.
Was
I know
he
it was
in the 45 range or something?
I know it was 54 with Maris. I mean, no, with Ruth. I guess it would be. Maybe it's 154 then too.
154, yeah. Okay, 154.
1953, Ernie Banks hits his first Major League home run on this day. A couple of days ago, he had his 500th. Obviously, a few years later. Be a record if he did it all in 1 year or something.
Yeah, we follow.
1955, Willie Mays is the 7th player to reach 50 home runs in a single season. 61, Roger Maris hits number 59 and barely misses number 60 in game 154 of the season. The Yankees clinch their 26th pennant. 1968, Mickey Mantle hits his final career homer, number 536. 1973, Billie Jean King beats Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes tennis match. 1980, George Brett goes 0 for 4, dropping his average below 400 for the remainder of the season.
And he ended up, 390?
390, yeah.
That would have been cool to see him do it.
And in 2021, Kansas City Royal Salvador Perez hits his 46th home run to break Hall of Fame Johnny Bench's Major League Baseball record for most in a season by a catcher. Royals win 7-2 in Cleveland.
He's a good one. Really good one.
It is National Punch Day, also National Rum Punch Day.
Oh, this would be not punch somebody.
No.
Just like
the
Hawaiian
starting
punch.
to pull back.
You know, we have not seen that lately. I don't even know if they make it. I guess they do, but we've not seen those commercials. How about a Hawaiian punch? Would that work today? You probably couldn't run those commercials today, could you?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, where one guy's punching the other one?
Yeah.
How about a Hawaiian punch? You know, that gets knocked into next week.
Haven't even seen the Kool-Aid Gate guy break through the wall.
I never really was a big Hawaiian punch guy.
I like Hawaiian punch. I'm a fan.
Okay.
Happy birthday, former Texas Tech Raider pitcher A.J. Ramos, 36 today. Sophia Loren is 88. Trayvon Diggs, 24. George R.R. Martin is 74. And Gary Cole is 66. And as much of a fan of I am as the space race, did not know this in 1963. An optimistic and upbeat President John F. Kennedy suggests that the Soviet Union and the United States cooperate on a mission to mount an expedition to the moon. The proposal caught both the Soviets and many Americans off guard. Opponents of the space program at the time cited the high cost of the proposed trip to the moon, estimated to be at $20 billion. In the midst of all this, Kennedy, in a speech to the United Nations, proposed that the Soviet Union and the United States cooperate in mounting a mission to the moon. Why, he asked in the audience, therefore, should man's first flight to the moon be a matter of national competition? The clouds have lifted a little in regards to the Cuban Missile Crisis in terms of the U.S.-Soviet relations, and declared the Soviet Union and the United States together with their allies can achieve further achievements, agreements which spring from our mutual interest in avoiding mutual destruction. So it could have been a joint operation landing on the moon in 1969.
Okay.
And that is this day in sports history.
They're going to put gas in the tank tomorrow for the Artemis 1 and then hope that it can launch on September the 27th. They're going to do what they term a kinder and gentler fueling. Okay.
Okay.
And
Kinder
they don't
and
put
gentler.
Kinder and gentler. to hope that they can get that thing off of launch pad 39B. The traditional pad is 39A. 39A is where almost all the shuttle launches and the all of the Apollo launches, I think, except for one, went off of 39.
A has already got a scheduled flight over there.
I don't know what. I guess when they were booking space, 39A already had that slot was full. Yeah,
it's already taken.
I think they retired 39A.
No,
somebody's having a wedding reception or a bar mitzvah over there.
Yeah. That would be cool to have your, have a party at 39A. That'd be fun. 6:51 this morning here on the Morning Drive. Thoughts, comments, Yates Flooring Center chat line. Go to doublet973.com. So the play that, you guys talked about this a little bit on end of the bench on the bottom line yesterday, and we talked about it a little bit this yesterday morning. The play on Reggie Pearson where he
Laid.
Yeah. Coach McGuire said that Pearson told him that he thought he was going to get a penalty, that he thought the guy had stepped out of bounds. And when Coach McGuire was talking to him, it really bothered him because he didn't want his, the thought of him either getting hit or giving out a hit to be questioned, that he didn't want to and Coach McGuire told him, he's like, nobody's going to question your physicality. But that's what he was worried about. He thought that the guy had stepped out of bounds. And he goes, we talk about playing through the whistle and all those kinds of things, but he just thought the guy had stepped out of bounds.
That's what I would assume was the case. I mean, so if that's accurate, he thought he had stepped out of bounds, then you start questioning, okay, well, why did you think he had stepped out of bounds? I mean, did you hear a whistle? The answer would be no. And I mean, are you? I mean, I don't know, but I don't think Reggie Pearson's afraid to hit somebody. So I don't think he quit on the play. Clearly he got confused.
Yeah. So.
And I mean, that's a mental mistake that you can't really afford.
Yeah. So. That was the case on that.
But I guess you'd rather say it's a mental mistake and, you can learn from it rather than having a guy in your team that you think is shying away from contact or quit. Yeah. And again, I just football players aren't made that way. Like they're afraid of contact. So it would just be hard for me to believe that Reggie Pearson was like, oh, I don't want to hit this guy.
Yeah, and that wasn't.
Many times you see guys going across the goal line, they're going to score, and they still hit them.
Yeah, right.
Just to send a message, okay, well, you're going to pay for it.
Still hit him out of bounds, too.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
He talked also about,
and it's good that he has the common sense or the whereabouts to say, well, I'm being careful here. As far as I'm not going to get a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah.
Although it would only been a 1-yard penalty because it would have been about the 2-yard line.
Yeah, been half the distance to the goal.
Distance,
yeah.
But
anyway, that was his.
That's very believable to me. I just don't see college football players. I don't know Reggie Pearson, but we know he's always played hard and all that. But I just don't see college football players afraid to hit somebody.
Yeah. 6:54 this morning here on the Morning Drive. We'll get some comments from Coach Joey McGuire as the Red Raiders get ready to take on Texas on Saturday. 2:30 kickoff. We'll have Optimum Game Day live coverage presented by United Supermarkets at 7 a.m. The kick's at 2:30, and then after the game, the Double T 97.3 Coors Light postgame show from the Overton. So, man, you haven't beat Texas at home since 2008. That's just, it's crazy when sometimes you think about 2008 was yesterday, sometimes it's ancient history, but the bottom line is, haven't beat them since 2008, and this may be the last time that they come here.
Recapping yesterday while looking ahead to today's sports day. This is the Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3. Jamie's question of the day on Double T 97.3 is presented by Bizarre Solutions. Call them today for a free cybersecurity audit.
What you got for us?
All right, I'm going to the offensive side of the ball today for the Red Raider football team. Mm-hmm. And you can give me a player, you can give me a style, you can give me a play. I am giving you complete freedom.
Tyler Shuck.
What would you like to see more of? What do you feel like our offense needs to do more of? Well, who do you think we need to see featured more of for this Red Raider offense to get on track? And don't say Donovan Smith needs to play better, because we all know that, right?
Okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah, we all know that one.
Yeah, Donovan.
So keep that one out of it.
That'd be pretty cool. The first guy's name that came to my mind was Miles Price.
I think that's a good answer.
That's the, and I don't know if you need somebody else to step up to help them play honest, because right now you can cover him up pretty well and feel like that maybe you've got people covered.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe somebody else needs to step up as well to help Miles Price get a little loose. Jeff?
Any one of the tight ends that we heard all season about, how they were going to be big key components of your offense this year. And I know that some of them, you've had a lot of plays where they've been on the field and they've been in blocking positions because you've needed the help, and I understand that. But once your block is done, that quick little release, that 5 little yard curl into the flat that lets you get out there and become the safety net, the safety blanket, the Jason Witten style. Oh, look, here's your another first down. Let's keep the chains moving, and simple, easy throws that we're not seeing.
Baylor Cup's been awful quiet, hasn't he? And
I thought Mason Tharp did some good things this past game.
Yeah.
But I mean, he had some good catches,
and I think
for you.
Cup has been, I don't know if he got a concussion or what, but I mean, and he's not been mentioned by Coach McGuire in terms of being on the injured list, but clearly there was something wrong with him.
Yeah, I didn't see him in the game that I ever noticed, but I thought Mason played well, so that was good to see. I think I'm going to go a little bit more general from you guys, but I'm kind of piggybacking off of you a little bit and the chat line. I feel like our wide receivers need to be better. I think that's like the quiet little nobody's paying attention to. I don't think our receivers have been good at all. I think there's been drops. I think they're not competing for balls. I think they're playing a big factor into or have played a big factor into some of the turnovers that we have had, okay, with them not competing for balls or the wrong routes being run. I feel like I just don't feel like our receivers have done a great job. And, I mean, so you go back to last game and you're not running the ball well and your receivers aren't making plays. It's going to be a tough day for just about any quarterback against a really good defense like NC State threw out there at you. And so I just think those guys need to be better. So you went with Miles Price. He would be on that list. Jeff talked about the tight ends, and a whole bunch of folks on the chat line also mentioned the tight end.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. Another one, and I think I brought this up with you yesterday, Chuck, where I was a little confused on Saturday. You know, so many fans get frustrated about the wide receiver screens. It just felt like to me that we needed to get the ball out of Donovan's hands quickly and get it out to a receiver and see if you can make a play. And we never tried that because to me that slows down a defensive front. That wears those guys out. It slows down their pass rush if you're getting the ball out quick because they're not trying to get upfield. They're worried about trying to get to the side or they know the ball's coming out quickly. Kind of slows down their desire to go 100% forward.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't see any of that and or much of that. I can't say that we didn't run any of those plays. But I know our fan base coming into the season like, no wide receiver screens, no horizontal passing game. Okay, I'm not in that boat. I also feel like you do a lot of it because you don't have time to throw the ball down the field because your offensive line is not good enough. But we didn't, in my opinion, didn't try enough of that on Saturday. And I would like to see more of that. And maybe that allows some receivers to get more involved and get feeling better about things.
Somebody asked your question. Basically, it's who on the offense do you need to see better from?
Yeah, who or what? What do you want to see?
Yeah.
What do you want to see on the offense step up?
And you only have 4 receivers with double digits in terms of catches. Jerron Bradley has 14 for 172. Miles Price has 12 for 167. Taj Brooks has 11 for 79. Nehemiah Martinez, 11 for 165. And then Loic Ponji with 9 for 168. Through 3 games, kind of based on, I'd have to go back to last year or 5 years. That seems somewhat pedestrian for a Texas Tech offense.
Yeah, maybe so.
You know, I don't have anything to compare it to.
Yeah.
After watching the last 2 weeks, yes, it does seem very much pedestrian.
Yeah.
I don't need to look at the stats.
Yeah. Somebody says, this dang, I agree with Jeff. Again! Tight end and passing game, where's Cup? Brian said tight end. Somebody else said tight end. Somebody else said short passes. I think we need to see more receivers catching the dang ball. Somebody else agrees with Jamie with regard to 50-50 balls. Agree, Jamie. I want to see more 50-50 balls to our receivers and see them fight for the ball. That from Nick. I agree about the receivers. Let's see here. Special teams need to be fixed. They're constantly putting this team in a bad position. Just fair catch a ball, let it go out of the end zone. Toe tapping on the goal line and try running it back is just insane. We'll get to some of that fair catch stuff just after 8 o'clock. So there you go. That's it in a nutshell. Seems like your question was spot on today, Inspector.
I don't know. I feel like we're all on the same page. It's having to do mostly with the passing game. What do you think about my point about the horizontal passing game? Is that, do you guys feel like we've just gone completely away from that? And did you wonder on Saturday why they weren't trying any of that?
I just wonder. I wonder if that's related to just the offensive line not doing what they needed to do.
Well,
that kind of takes the offensive line out of play when you take a quick drop and get rid of the ball quickly. That's true. I mean, part of maybe they don't have the confidence in the receivers to block for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Gilly did say that the way that NC State set up their defense, it kind of takes away those wide receiver screens. Okay, so they stayed away from it in the game.
Yeah.
But
see, that makes sense, and that maybe that's why he felt like their defense was, would key in on that and was good at stopping that, and so they did something different. See, that makes sense to me.
But that, to me, even leads more to go the other direction with it. Instead of throwing it out there immediately, get somebody in the middle and have them go that way. And if they're doing that well on the wide receiver screen, somehow I feel like a jailbreak works.
I bet they couldn't have stopped Harrell and Crabtree.
Well,
or Alex Torres.
I'm not sure
Norman.
that Deion Sanders could stop Crabtree and Harrell together. Just saying.
Bullfighter said that Don Williams said Baylor Cup was hurt last week, and somebody said Cup was on the injury report for Saturday. Okay, I did not hear Saturday's game, but all I'm saying is last Monday he wasn't on the list of players that were questionable or out. So I don't know if something happened in practice or something developed throughout the week, or he was just left off the list. I don't know because he wasn't asked about it last Monday. Okay. So maybe something developed, or maybe they looked at it, or something. But clearly something happened.
I heard they could only take one Baylor guy on the plane, so they took Joyce Woodman instead of Baylor Cup.
Instead of Baylor Cup. Okay. Mike says this: I don't think the offensive line gave him time to go through reads, and Smith is already kind of quick to pull and run.
There were a few times last game where I've wanted Donovan to run quicker. Like I felt like he held too long. I thought he should have got out of there. I mean, that probably, all of that, Mike, and what we're saying, and sometimes he's holding it too long and sometimes he's not holding enough, it probably means we probably need to give NC State credit for, changing things up on his defense, keeping him confused and making it difficult. Probably they deserve some credit.
Yeah.
And they look like a really good defensive unit.
Yeah.
Recapping yesterday while looking ahead to today's sports day. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, good morning. It's a Morning Drive on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3 and Double T973.com with Jamie Lent and Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Heinz. We come to you from the First United Bank Double T 97.3 studio. Look forward to hearing from you. Yates Flooring Center chat line, Benchmark hotline as well. something for you to do on your own time, and you're going to really have to find that time available. But just so you know, if you would like a podcast version of the Morning Drive or Tech Talk or End of the Bench or Sports Talk with Thetford and Ashby, blah, 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 you can get it at doublet973.com or on the 100.7 The Score website. They're available. And 107thescore.com is that site. And also wherever you find your podcast. So you can kind of get a best of and get a synopsis of what we've been talking about in a pretty short order. And would love your feedback on that. So if you are inclined to do so, you can. If you missed something and you want to get a pretty quick update, you can go to doublet973.com and click on the podcast and choose your flavor. Okay?
There you go.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Nice to be with you this morning, 8:03 on the Morning Drive. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, Jamie, but let's hear from Coach McGuire and then get your reaction on philosophy with regard to kickoffs and fair catches and those types of things. Here is Coach Joey McGuire on kickoff returns.
The one, I showed it to our coaches first, and then we talked about it as a team. We have a lot of FBI moments, football intelligence, and the one that we should have let go, it was either going to go out or it was going to go, to where it's going to be a penalty on them. We should have let it go. That's a bad decision on our part. It starts with coaching. The second part, as far as return-wise, if it's in the end zone and you're deep 2 to 3 yards, we want to let it go. But if it's not in the end zone, we want to bring it out. We want to be very aggressive. We got good returners. I mean, when you watch that, we're literally, again, we showed that first to the coaches and then to the players. We're literally one guy away from every one of those returns, minus the one that we should have let go out, having big returns. I think we're second right now in the conference in returns, but the one thing, and we talked a little bit about, is the conference as an average is not the fair catch because it's going to be at the 25-yard line. And so it's kind of that philosophy. Our philosophy is we want to be aggressive.
That's Coach Joey McGuire. Your thought?
I generally am a pretty conservative guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the play calling, if I was a coordinator, my style of going for it on fourth down, not going for it on it, I'm pretty much a
you'd be vanilla,
a conservative guy. But I will also say that there are instances where I feel like it's worth the risk to be aggressive. I feel like on kickoff returns, if you are coming up at where you have the opportunity to fair catch
mm-hmm.
and take it to the 25, or you can run it out and you may get to the 22 sometimes or the 20, and you every once in a while break one and you're at the 35 or you get to midfield. To me, that is worth the risk of coming up short. Even if you're coming up 2 or 3 yards short, 75% of the time, I still think it's worth that risk because I like the momentum that it builds with a good kickoff. That being said, I think like anything else, you have to see how your team's performing and you make an adjustment. And I think right now I'm of the opinion, me personally, if I was coaching, I think I would say, all right, we're really struggling with this. Let's fair catch until we get better at this. The returns haven't been great, and we've had too many penalties on kickoff returns that have pushed us inside the 10. You're not starting possessions at the 22. You've started them at the 8 and the 7, okay, and the 9, okay, which is a big difference to me. So I think right now I'm in the mode of we should probably go the conservative route, all right? But I also, so that's my style. But I also can look at what Coach McGuire is doing, and I think there is a time where, coaches have to allow players to make plays and show some trust in them. Just like, you're 4th and goal at the 1 and early on in a game and you're not kicking the field goal. You're saying, hey, we want to set a tone here and we want to show some faith in our offensive line. We're saying we're going to go for it here. And I think that Coach McGuire is trying to show some faith in his kick returners, his playmakers, and say, hey, we think you guys can turn this into a plus for us rather than a negative. At some point, he has to decide whether it's not worth that risk anymore, and I can't show the trust in them. They haven't earned the trust, and we got to play it safe and fair catch it. But I think what he's saying is he's not there right now. He feels like these guys have a chance to break some of these kickoff returns, and that's why he's still showing faith in them and allowing them to return it rather than call for fair catches. So to me, it's a different style. And if I was a coach compared to him, I don't have a problem with what he's doing right here. Again, I think I'm more generally a conservative guy when it comes to that sort of stuff. But I think you got to show faith in your players at times. You got to trust them. You got to allow them to. You got to, be behind them and say, we think you can make plays. This is why we recruited you, to make a play, okay? Not to fair catch the ball every time. We need you to make a play. And so I think he's showing trust and faith in his guys right now, and I think the players probably appreciate that. Now, I don't want to act like it's the returners who aren't doing their job. The bigger problem, in my opinion, has been the blockers getting penalized. Okay? Mm-hmm. So don't blame the returners for what the blockers aren't doing right, if that makes sense to you.
Sure.
Okay? So we got to get those guys better so these returners can make a play.
In the game, you started the ball at your own 25, your own 19, your own 18. Those are all after kickoffs.
None of those really bother me.
Okay. Started from your own 13 after a kickoff.
Okay, that's clearly not good.
And then started your own. That was on downs. So anyway, those were some of the issues there. With regard to the 4th and 1, correct me if I'm wrong here or not, Jeff, but it sounded like if he had that to do over again, he'd kick the field goal and be down 13-3.
Yeah, instead of throwing the pick six.
Yeah, but I mean, he said he said.
Yeah, he said looking back on it, he probably should have kicked the field goal.
Kick the field goal.
Take away the pick six. But yeah, in that play, it was the 4th and 1 and pick six.
Yeah.
So yeah, he'd rather kick the field goal.
But he said also that
Where were we on the field?
It was been like a 40-yard kick, 38-yard kick, something like that. We were close. We were in field goal range, but it wasn't.
I thought we were still in the 30s, which I still don't have a high level of confidence in our kickers right now.
Yeah, so I mean, he said that there's been some more move to analytics for him, and as opposed to the gut. But they have an analytics meeting every week, and they go by a lot of analytics, but they also use the old-fashioned gut too.
Yeah, I hope so.
Getting you up and getting your sports day started. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3.
With Jamie Lent, Jeff McGuire, and Christian, I'm Chuck Heinz. Nice to have you with us this morning on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Take your thoughts, comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Go to the Double T 97.3 mobile app presented by Happy State Bank for that. This on the 4th and 1, PJ, it would have been a 45-yard kick. The real question there is, why was Donovan not lined up under center and just sneaked it for a yard? He's 6'5", 240 for crying out loud. Just get the first down. No idea we were throwing it there. Okay, that's a play calling question there. So that's fair.
And I bet you if Coach McGuire was really confident in a 45-yarder, he would have kicked it.
Yeah, and so far, neither Trey Wolf or Gino Garcia has given him that confidence.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Albert, I kind of think of 4th and 1 at that specific part of the field as a toss-up. If you trust your players, go for it, specifically your offensive line. Yeah, that's fair.
I didn't have a problem with him going for it. I wouldn't have been upset if he kicked it. I would have been nervous, but I mean, I wouldn't have been upset with if he kicked it or not. I am going back to the conservative Jamie. I'm the guy that's like, okay, just get the one. Let's not try for the big play here. Mm-hmm. Let's not throw the ball 15 yards down the field on this play. Let's make sure we're getting the one. I don't know that I would run the quarterback sneak, though, as poor as your ability to run in the inside of that line had been all day long. I don't know that I would be trying to run the ball up the middle.
Okay. And then in just thinking about the 45-yarder, now I'm going back and thinking about the Murray State game where you had the opportunity to kick a 45-yarder roughly and didn't do it. Okay, where you went. I think you took the penalty, backed up the punter, and chose not to kick it. And that was the point where I would have thought, okay, if you were trying to kind of get your kicker into a game situation, 45-yarder, there was no pressure there in terms of winning the game. That would have been a good time to do that right then and there, but that wasn't the case. 8:17 this morning here on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. All right, so a lot was made of the timeouts, and Coach McGuire was asked about his timeout usage in the fourth quarter. Here is Coach Joey McGuire on using his timeouts when he did late in the game and not earlier.
Well, if you can't save a full 40 seconds, then the way we believe is that you shouldn't use them. And there wasn't a point to save the 40 seconds. You kind of go back and forth. I mean, I talked about it right after the game. What do you do? 14:56 left in the game, and do we go for it on 4th and 8? It was a weird series of events because a play didn't happen. Because the time ran out. It would have been 4th and 3 instead of 4th and 8, but 4th and 8. And so you kind of go back to the numbers. We met yesterday and we talked through a bunch of football stuff, and that was one of them about punting right there. We were playing good defense, and there was a debate, and I still, am trying to think through the situation if I had done something different. The problem is everybody's going to say, well, you had 14:56 left. We needed 2 possessions. We didn't get 2 possessions in the third quarter. So you're not guaranteed to get the 2 possessions. So at that point right there, you know you have the ball and you know you have an opportunity to convert. And so, I wish we would have converted on 3rd and 8. I thought Kelly made a great call, and we just didn't execute. And then they dropped 8 on that 4th and 8, and we didn't get the first down. The tough thing is whenever you start looking through stuff, everything's hindsight. And, of course,
That's Coach Joey McGuire. I don't think I've ever heard a coach talk about timeout strategy and say, I'm not calling a timeout unless I get the full 40 seconds. In fact, I know that I never have. So that is a little puzzling to me.
Yeah, okay. And he's going to make sure he's saving a full 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Using it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen plenty of coaches at all levels squander where you're like, okay, call the timeout. And then finally they call the timeout and you're like, God, 15 seconds went by. Mm-hmm. Now, he makes the point of when they went for it, wondering if they were going to have 2 possessions left. Well, for as good as your defense has been playing, it would seem to me you feel like you should be able to get your defense off the field, the other team's offense off the field with how good your defense has been playing. But I guess all that time, and maybe this goes back to what you were saying earlier, hey, it's just his 3rd game as a college head coach. I get that he's was a high school head coach, but the game moves faster. There is different probably strategy involved and things like that. So maybe it's one of those deals where, okay, maybe next time you'll look at this and go, okay, what happened in the third quarter was an anomaly with the 8-minute drive against our team. We feel like as good as we've been playing in terms of how we did in the first quarter of making stops and forcing field goals, that we should be able to get a stop when we need one. If we can't, then we don't deserve to win the game.
Right. I mean, it felt like you could have given yourself a better chance if you had used some of those timeouts like you were. But I also, you don't want to take them too early and allow them to just continue a drive by not getting them off the field, and now you've wasted them and you did nothing with it. But I agree with what you're pointing, saying that you have confidence your team can get them off the field defensively.
Yeah, so somebody brings up the point. I may be wrong with there was about 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter, had them 3rd and long. I thought that was a good time to call a timeout and set the defense and stop the clock to get the ball back. I don't know what the specific time was. That drive started with 8:38 to go. There was a 3rd and 8. And then there's a delay of game penalty that's called on North Carolina State, and then they end up punting. And I'm sure that's exactly where they're talking about, because they have the ball at the Tech 40, and then it gets backed up after basically there was a loss of 4 yards, so it gets backed up to the 44, and then they take the penalty and backs them up to the 49, so that the punter has plenty of room to punt and sets Tech back because there's a fair catch at the 15-yard line. Mm-hmm. So that's a point there where you could have called timeout. And again, it may be one of those deals where next time is like, okay, I need to trust my defense a little bit more, because I think they've earned that.
Absolutely, I would agree.
Mm-hmm. So again, I think that you've got a young coach, you got a young team. So he wasn't asked specifically why he didn't take the timeout, other than his philosophy of saying unless he can save the full 40 seconds, he's not going to call timeout, which I got to be honest, I've never heard that explanation before from a coach. Mm-hmm. And there have been times, and during the Kingsbury administration, where I was critical of times that you squandered timeouts, it seems like, because either you couldn't get guys on the field, or you had some confusion about what you were doing, or had too many guys on the field, or blah blah blah. And I'd like to have timeouts left, but I mean, there is a art to it, I'm sure. It's one of those deals, I'm sure it's harder than it looks, like every other job. It's easy to scream, call timeout at home when you're sitting there drinking a beer and eating your chips and sitting in your chair, right? Mm-hmm. We're all great then, but you get in the heat of the moment and you're trying to have these discussions. At the end of the day, it falls on him. Yeah,
I disagree in that. I don't think that we're all great then. We all think we are.
That's what I think.
But we're not.
We all think we are.
We're not.
And Brian points out he's playing the analytics game that Aranda uses and others. There's no question. He talked about that, and that they have an analytics meeting. But I think he's probably still, and I don't want to speak for him in this, but I think he's still probably developing some of his philosophy for the college game in terms of using his gut and using his analytics.
Maybe so.
So that's just a thought there. 8:24 this morning. Somebody else says, but to use the timeouts at the end was nonsensical. You could make that point. At that point in time, there was really much reason to use them.
Yeah, and then changing the quarterback when you did also just to me was confusing.
Yeah. All right, well, dissect this thing up. I kind of feel like sometimes not that we're brain surgeons, but because I think we're sloppy brain surgeons.
Because I don't think we are.
We slice it up, like the thin slice of the brain, so you can kind of see exactly what's going on there. I think if I were to be a brain surgeon, I'd be a very messy one, and the slices would all be different sizes, and people would be like, "What in the world are you doing there?"
Can I get a different doctor, please?
You sure can.
You've been listening to the Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3. For more from Lubbock Sports Station, go to doublet973.com.